didn't just get slapped, he got exposed. And if you think that sound you heard on Monday Night Raw was just a hand meeting a cheek, you weren't paying attention, because that slap echoed through the entire WWE universe, rattled Dominik Mysterio's ego, and cracked open a conversation fans have been itching to have for years. So let me ask you this, right out of the gate. Was Dominik finally getting what he deserved? Or did Stephanie Vaquer cross a line WWE can't uncross? Comment right now, because this moment has already split the fan base in half. The camera hadn't even settled. The crowd was already restless. Dominik Mysterio stood there with that familiar, smug half grin, the kind that screams, "I think I'm untouchable." And that's when everything went sideways. No warning, no dramatic wind-up, no overproduced slow burn, just crack. Stephanie Vaquer's hand collided with Dominik's face so hard you could hear the shock before you heard the crowd explode. And let's be real, Raw on February 9th, 2026 instantly became her night. Now here's a quick one for you. Did you flinch when it happened, or did you rewind it immediately? Be honest in the comments, because this wasn't just a slap. This was a statement. For weeks leading up to this moment, Dominik Mysterio had been running his mouth like he was invincible. Cheap shots, condescending laughs, that smug, "I'm above you" tone that makes your blood boil even through a TV screen. He wasn't just disrespecting the locker room, he was toying with it. And then came Stephanie Vaquer. Vaquer didn't come to Raw to play the background role. From the second she stepped onto WWE television, there was something different about her. A presence, a stiffness to her movements, a calm that feels dangerous because it tells you she doesn't need to prove anything. Dominik, of course, didn't see it that way. He interrupted her, talked over her, mocked her accent, smirked while doing it. And here's the part that should make you mad. He thought he could get away with it. Let me throw another one at you. What annoyed you more, Dominik's words or the way he smiled while saying them? The crowd was already turning. You could feel it, that low rumble of anger, that sense that something was about to snap. WWE didn't add dramatic music. They didn't cut away. They let it breathe. Vaquer stepped closer. Dominik leaned in, still laughing, and in one fluid motion, bang. That slap wasn't flashy, it wasn't theatrical, it was real. The kind of slap that carries intent, frustration, and a message that doesn't need subtitles. Dominik staggered, and for the first time in a long time, he looked small. Pause right there. Think about that image. Dominik Mysterio, third-generation superstar, self-proclaimed menace, Judgment Day mouthpiece, standing stunned, eyes wide, hand frozen midair like his brain needed a second to reboot. When was the last time you saw Dominik genuinely shaken? Drop the moment in the comments. The crowd? Nuclear. Absolute chaos. Some people cheered like their favorite team just won a championship. Others booed, not because they were mad at Vaquer, but because they couldn't believe what they'd just seen. And that's the genius of it. This moment worked because it felt earned. Stephanie Vaquer didn't slap Dominik to get attention. She slapped him because he crossed a line, and deep down, even Dominik knew it. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Watch the replay closely. Dominik didn't sell it like a comedy spot. No exaggerated spin, no cartoon fall. He sold it like a man who realized he messed up. That subtlety matters. Quick question. Do you prefer realistic reactions like this, or do you miss the over-the-top selling of the past? Because Raw didn't move on quickly, commentary didn't crack jokes, the camera stayed tight on Dominik's face, and you could see the embarrassment settling in. Not anger, not rage, embarrassment. And that's worse. Stephanie Vaquer didn't raise her hand again. She didn't shout, she didn't gloat. She just stared at him. That silence louder than any promo. Now, let's talk about why this moment hit so hard. Dominik Mysterio has built his entire WWE identity around being annoying, protected, and somehow always slipping out of consequences. He hides behind factions, behind numbers, behind interference. But this was one-on-one. No backup, no escape, no script safety net. It forced Dominik into a corner he couldn't talk his way out of, and fans felt it. So here's something to chew on. Does Dominik work better as an untouchable coward or as someone finally being held accountable? because Raw on February 9th didn't just advance a storyline, it cracked open Dominik's character arc. Backstage segments later in the night only poured gasoline on the fire. Judgment Day wasn't laughing. Damian Priest looked annoyed. Rhea Ripley looked concerned. Finn Balor didn't say a word. Let that sink in. When your own faction goes quiet, that's not support, that's doubt. Another question for you. Who do you think was more upset backstage, Dominik or Judgment Day? Then came the whispers. Was WWE blurring lines? Was this too real? Was this a sign of bigger plans for Stephanie Vaquer? Because let's be honest, this slap did more for Vaquer's aura in 5 seconds than some wrestlers get in 5 years. She didn't need a long promo. She didn't need a match. She needed one moment, and she owned it. Social media exploded within minutes, clips everywhere, slow-motion replays, fan debates turning downright hostile. Some fans called it disrespectful, others called it overdue. Which side are you on? Team she went too far, or team he deserved worse? Raw leaned into the chaos beautifully. Later in the night, Dominik tried to laugh it off during an interview, but his eyes gave him away. He joked, he smirked, but the confidence was cracked. And that's the brilliance of this angle. It didn't humiliate him publicly, it destabilized him internally. Stephanie Vaquer, meanwhile, didn't even mention the slap. She wrestled her match, she won, she laughed. No explanation. Because when you're that confident, you don't explain yourself. Let's talk about crowd psychology for a second. Why did this slap feel so satisfying to so many fans? Because wrestling fans are emotional investors. We remember patterns. We remember who gets away with what. Dominik has been dodging consequences for a long time, and this felt like karmic balance. But balance always comes with backlash. Another one for you. Do you think Dominik should retaliate physically, or should this stay psychological? Because make no mistake, this isn't over. WWE doesn't give moments like this without intent. The camera angle, the lack of commentary jokes, the replay timing, all signs point to this being a pivot point. And here's a wild thought. What if this slap isn't about Dominik at all? What if it's about positioning Stephanie Vaquer as something WWE hasn't had in a long time? A no-nonsense presence who doesn't need permission to command respect. Think about it. She didn't ask for a microphone. She didn't wait for approval. She reacted. And in doing so, she flipped the power dynamic. Last question for now. Do you see Stephanie Vaquer as a future main event force after this moment? Yes or no? Because moments like these don't fade. They echo. Years from now, people will still say, that was the night Stephanie Vaquer slapped Dominik Mysterio, and Raw felt dangerous again. And that's the key word. Dangerous. Raw hasn't always felt that way. Sometimes it's predictable, sometimes it's safe. But on February 9th, 2026, it felt like anything could happen. And that's why you watched until the end. So now, I want to hear from you. Did that slap change how you see Dominik? Did it elevate Stephanie Vaquer instantly? And most importantly, do you want more moments like this on Raw, or did WWE push the envelope too far? Blow up the comments, argue respectfully, or don't. Share this with that one friend who loves to defend Dominik no matter what. And if you're still arguing about it hours later, yeah, that means it worked. Welcome to the Rumble. Because if you're still thinking about that slap hours later, then WWE accomplished something rare. They made a moment that refuses to leave your head. Let's rewind again, not to the slap itself, but to what happened after the camera stopped focusing on it, because that's where the real damage was done. Dominik Mysterio didn't storm backstage flipping tables. He didn't demand an apology. He didn't even look angry. He looked lost. And that should worry you if you're a Dominik fan, or excite you if you've been waiting for his downfall. There was a brief shot later in the night, blink and you missed it, where Dominik is sitting alone, taping his wrist, like he's preparing for a fight that never came. No Judgment Day around him, no Rhea, no Priest, just him and that 1,000-yard stare. Let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed how the most dangerous character shifts in WWE always start with silence? Drop a yes or no in the comments. Because this silence wasn't accidental. Stephanie Vaquer had already moved on. Dominik hadn't. And that imbalance is everything. For years, Dominik has thrived on chaos, boos, interference, heat magnets, constant noise. But when the noise stopped, when the slap sucked all the oxygen out of the room, Dominik was forced to sit with something he's avoided his entire career: consequences. Now, let's talk about the slap itself again, but from a different angle. Notice how Vaquer didn't slap him after a threat. She didn't wait for physical provocation. She reacted to disrespect. That's a subtle but powerful distinction. WWE has spent decades teaching us that physicality comes after escalation. This moment flipped that logic. It said some lines don't get warnings, and that's why people are arguing. Quick one for you. Should disrespect alone justify physical retaliation in wrestling storylines? This one's gonna get heated. Go. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. A lot of fans didn't just enjoy the slap, they felt relieved by it. Relieved that someone finally stopped Dominik mid-sentence. Relieved that the smugness didn't get the last word. Relieved that WWE trusted the audience to understand the moment without spoon-feeding it. And that relief turned into rage.